for staying with us. Many thanks to Abir Hussein for this report, and many thanks to our dear distinguished guest, Dr. Milad Momtaz, the Professor of International Relations, for being with us here on Nile Oracle. Now, this is the first time that we're together on Nile Oracle. Dr. Momtaz, we were together on Daily Debate for a good period of time, and we talked Iran a lot. We talked about the very important, war or no peace, or negotiations under fire, or whatever is happening. The topic tonight is, the global south and redefining power in a multipolar world. We don't know if we will reach that multipolar world, but we do know that countries in Asia, in the Middle East, in Latin America want to have a bigger voice in world saying. And we do know that the outcome of the Iran question, no question, will have a big effect on how the world is shaped for a good time to come. Whether it will remain a unipolar world with the United States in the lead, or whether the U.S. will lose some of its hegemony or influence, or whether the Chinese will join, or whether the South will have a bigger voice. So that's why I wanted to, before we talk about the main topic here tonight, I wanted to ask you about how do you see the latest developments related to the Iran situation. That is why. Because we've had, big developments in the past 24, 48 hours. How do you see the developments? And of course, the American strikes, the incident in the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranians attacking commercial tankers, oil tankers, America replying very strongly, civilians again dying in Iran, military targets being hit, but Mr. Trump saying it's not a return to the war, and we can still, and Iran wants to deal. So we're back again to somehow, it's to the no war, no peace situation, maybe, because it's the worst we've seen since the MOU was signed on June 17th.
Okay, first of all, let me congratulate, all the crew of the channel on the renovation and the new design of the studio. Okay, I believe, the channel has always been, and will continue to be the main media beacon, to our country. Back to Iran, the last couple of, I wouldn't say days, it's been hours, and I think those hours have been very critical. And I mean, the word itself, that word is not just mere rhetorically used in that context. No, I mean it, because the whole situation is so hazy. It's extremely dangerous at the same time. You've mentioned some of the details of the situation, and those to me are like the tip-top of the ice mountain. There is much to be said. We know very little about the situation, and that adds to, how critical the situation is. So I'm pretty worried myself about the situation, because United for America, since, the whole thing started in February, they have never tried to target, some key infrastructure of Iran, namely when it comes to bridges.
Railways were targeted today.
And railways. Now we are seeing United for America striking, and Mr. Donald Trump, since February, they started February 28th, he has been saying that, we'll be targeting, the railways and bridges, but they had never done that.
Now he's done it without saying it. Exactly.
So that means it's a different phase, it's a different stage of the confrontation, it's a different thing, I mean it, a different, step on the way of escalation, not the de-escalation of the situation. And as you mentioned, the memory of understanding, which I think, maybe I kind of disagree, and maybe I wouldn't call it a memory of understanding. Maybe I kind of pessimistic, and I would say, and I would call it, a memory of misunderstanding, not memory of understanding. And I'd explain why, saying like so. Because memory of understanding is not just mere, a title of something or a document that you're putting at a table, you say, okay, wow, that's a memory of understanding. Memory of understanding has to do with, okay, both parties of different parties coming together, sitting at the same table, and deciding that it's time to go ahead with our negotiations, taking active steps towards the de-escalation of the situation. But, okay, what we've been seeing since they signed the so-called memory of understanding doesn't show and doesn't actually give any sort of signal that is what it's memory of understanding. And I think in one of our previous talks, I still recall, we actually talked about, you know, trusting each other, that issue. And of course, that has to do with understanding, the memory of understanding. Of course, I don't think that, okay, both parties are on the right track, and that's really dangerous. If they are not on the same tracks, of course, they will be colliding, and that's what we're seeing, okay? That's a direct crash between the two trains. So imagine that, okay, it's a train, okay, two trains now, it's not a single one, and they are heading towards each other. Okay, that they are colliding. Okay, Iran at the same time, in my mind, why that? Why that kind of escalation on their side, the Iranian side? In my mind, okay, and I think that's a direct manifestation of something happening inside Iran. Let's forget about the different scenes that we have seen at the funeral of Mr. Khamenei. I know
which seemed to be a very unifying scene.
Okay, I don't think so. I don't take things at face value. That, okay, because you are airing some actually scenes of the funeral and stuff like that, I would believe it and take it for granted. That's what the whole situation. There is actually, you know, solid unity inside Iran. I did not think so myself. I believe that, okay, that hardliners led by the Revolutionary Guards, they are playing very active role nowadays inside Iran, okay, to control the situation. They've been doing that for a while, okay, but I'm talking, okay, the last couple of weeks, okay, they've been actually, you know, waiting for the United States of America to take active steps towards de-escalation. For example, they've been calling in the United States of America actually to withdraw its troops from some critical areas in Iran. And the United States of America actually doesn't want to do that quickly. They don't want to speed up the process of doing that because they don't trust the Iranian side. Okay, so I think in my mind, the National Guards and the hardliners inside Iran, I think they were playing some sort, if I may call it, a game. They've been wanting the United States of America to go ahead and start applying the different terms that, okay, stated in the memory of understanding. But on their side, okay, the obligations mentioned about the Iranian side in the memory of understanding and how they meet actually those obligations and doing such obligation, I think that's something else. So my mind goes like what? Okay, the domestic affairs of Iran, I think that's the main thing nowadays. And I think, you know, to cover up the whole thing, the National Guards are striking, you know, some ships at the Strait of Hormuz, and actually, okay, the entrance of the Gulf as well, off Oman, you know, targeting some ships as well. And even, you know, okay, the last couple of days we've seeing them targeting some Gulf states as well, and Jordan as well. So I think, you know, that's
so what kind of de-escalation is this? I mean,
it's never de-escalation, okay? And maybe they are redefining the term de-escalation, but I don't think it's de-escalation. Okay,
so we're redefining de-escalation, we're redefining memoranda of understanding, and we're redefining a lot, and we're redefining the power, how the power is spread globally. But maybe you don't agree with that proposition, because it's a proposition after all. I mean, is the world going to shift to a multipolar world? But again, the reason we started talking about the Iran problem, because much of what will happen next, many people assume, will depend on the outcome of this war. The Iranians really want to hurt Mr. Trump. They want to hurt America's image. They already have. But it seems they want to do more. And maybe if they get greedy, they will lose what they have achieved. I mean, I'm speaking, of course, militarily, Iran has been defeated. But politically speaking, strategically speaking, there seems to be some victories for Iran, and there seems to be some setbacks for America.
I think the main victory, okay, in my mind, is about resilience. That's what they have shown, you know, the last couple of months. You know, the resistance and resilience of the Iranian side. Okay, and the capability of facing United States of America. By the way, United States of America, yeah, they have been waging that war against Iran, but you know what they've been doing in Iran is not the mix on their side, by the way. They have a lot, actually, you know, in their hands. And they haven't yet used that kind of thing, the different military capabilities of the United States of America. You know, and that's why what's been going on the last couple of days, I think that's a direct warning message from the United States of America to Iran: don't go that far.
So Iran is seemingly trying to toy more with Mr. Trump. I mean, they toyed with him. They got the 60-day ceasefire deal, yeah, and they got some of what they wanted. Nobody's talking about their missiles anymore. They have a say about Lebanon. They want to change things in Hormuz. You see, so they will get back some of their frozen assets, some of the money. So they are toying, and it seems they want to capitalize more because they have realized that Mr. Trump really wants this over. He doesn't want war no more. I mean, it's very clear.
Yeah, I think that's what they got, okay? They understood it very actually well, that Mr. Donald Trump doesn't want to go on with this, and he wants to put an end to all of this. But, okay, hastening the whole situation, and that's why they realize.
But if he will look very bad, he will act.
Yeah, exactly. If you put Mr. Donald Trump in the corner, of course, he would be actually...
He will act.
Harsh, really harsh.
So this is very interesting. We don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to predict, isn't it?
It's not only interesting, it's quite dangerous. Because let's imagine, you know, once again, I want to be optimistic. However, things are not going in that direction of being optimistic. Okay, but if things actually deteriorate more, I think, you know, going out of hands, and I mean it, we don't want to get to that point. And that's why we call it the point of no return. Now, I want to go that far. Okay, no one wants to go that far.
Egypt has warned from this point many times, and it has called it the point of no return.
Yeah, and I like actually you brought up this, because Egypt actually, you know, is like perceiving Egyptians, you know, especially when it comes to, okay, diplomacy and, you know, our perception of diplomacy in the world. And that, by the way, that's not about yesterday or day before yesterday. Okay, it's about 10 years, 11 years now since 2013, 2014. It's about, okay, the word, and has to do with the first question. You know, it's about, okay, the multipolar system and the new world order, because that has to do with the Iranian-American war as well.
Yeah.
So Egyptians have been seeing this in a much better, in my mind, and much more clearer way. That what, okay, the world doesn't want to go there. We, you know, in other words, in my mind, we have had enough of wars. We have had enough of clashes. You know, we don't want to go that far. We don't want to lose people. Okay, let me give actually an example, you know, and I think we talked a lot about this, you know, about Gaza and what happened in Gaza. That very small, geographically speaking, pure geographic terms, it's a very small area. However, the casualties, you know, and the people there, okay, the final toll people who have died, you know, and wounded, you know, and I think that's unbearable. And a very small area. How about a country like Iran? What about other countries in the world? Okay, it's not only about, because we are talking about the Middle East, by the way. I'm talking about the world, broadly speaking. Let's broaden the horizon of our thinking, and not only focusing on the Middle East, despite the fact that it's one of the, you know, the most problematic areas in the world. I know it.
You see, since you mentioned Gaza, Dr. Momtaz, and since we were speaking about the World Cup just a few minutes ago here in the program, it was very humane from the part of Hossein Hassan, Egypt's national team coach, to talk about Palestine and talk about Gaza at the global stage. And the world was listening. The world was listening. And it was very touching when Coach Hossein Hassan said, you know, and he was talking to the world, you know, the people of Palestine and the children of Gaza, they love you. They wear the T-shirts of, you know, of the big teams in Europe. I mean, they love you, but you don't love them. You don't care about them. And had you cared about them, the situation would never have been like this. I just wanted to bring this up because that was the conscience of an Egyptian citizen. You know, you'll find 100 million plus Egyptians like Hossein Hassan.
And definitely.
Yeah, but it was very brave and very for Hossein Hassan to do this on that global stage. It was great.
It was amazing, you know, and we are so proud of this. And I think any Egyptian would have done that, by the way.
Yeah.
Very proudly. By the way, we're not exaggerating. That's okay. In other words, it's like it's deeply rooted in ourselves. By the way, we're not actually showing off. Okay, we're not bragging about this. That's us as Egyptians. Okay, and
it's how we've always felt. It's
exactly.
how we feel. It's how we will always feel.
Exactly. It's in other words, it's like it's built in, something built in. Okay, in us
generation after generation after generation.
And I really like that you brought up this as well, because it's not only about Hossein Hassan, because Hossein Hassan is a different generation, but even when it comes to youngsters.
Sure.
Okay,
Obvious.
and I'm really proud of those youngsters, like 16, 17, 18 years old,
Yes.
talking about Palestine. And I think, you know, it's time actually to talk to them about our real history, the Egyptian history. I know they are proud of who they are as Egyptians, but I need, okay, that since we are talking about the word and different changes in the word, I think it's time actually to get to them, to talk to them about our real history, our Egyptian history, and our very strong ties with our neighbors, our neighboring countries, especially like Palestine, what we've been doing, to this just cause,
Yeah.
So.
And when we say they are our brothers and our sisters, this is no exaggeration. This is simply.
We mean it.
Yeah. This is the.
We mean it and we do it.
Yeah.
Not only we mean it in just a vocal way.
Yeah.
No, we do this.
Yeah. Naturally.
Yeah.
And we are one. And there are intermarriages. I mean, we are basically one, and there's a lot of common stuff, between all of us Arabs, especially really between Egyptians and Palestinians. Dr. Momtaz, so will the Iran war indeed change how the world is governed? Will it take away from America's domination, or is this an exaggeration?
I think it's, one of the things that would help change the face of the world. Okay, not the main thing. Of course, it's one of the main issues on the table on the international stage nowadays. But it's not the only thing, because we shouldn't be actually forgetting about what's happening in Ukraine. Yeah, of course, the media doesn't focus that much for nowadays, on this. However, what's been going on there.
4+ years,
yeah. It's very crucial as well. And, it helps change the world, And let me, if you don't mind, rephrase the question a little bit.
Please.
Okay, about the future of the world. Everyone is very much keen to know. We want to know where we're heading. I think that's a very legitimate question. Everyone. And, okay, let me go back to what I've just said, because we were talking about youngsters. Imagine those young men and women not knowing, they feel like lost. What is that kind of situation in the world? We want to know more. We want to be sure about the future of the world. When we see those endless conflicts in the world, like that one between United States of America, Israel on one side, and Iran on the other side, and once again, I mean it, I should put Israel in that formula. We shouldn't forget about that. Israel has been wanting that confrontation between United States of America and Iran.
You see, Dr. Momtaz, Israel is in every formula. And I'm sorry to go back to the World Cup again, but because there was a news item that really caught my attention today that I read. Israel's contribution to the FIFA World Cup is killing humanitarian relief organizers, humanitarian relief people in Gaza who were organizing small gatherings to watch FIFA football matches. That's Israel's contribution to the FIFA World Cup. Killing the humanitarian relief workers who are organizing gatherings of children and teenagers and elderly and women watching football matches, watching FIFA World Cup matches. So Israel is always in the equation. Sorry for this interruption.
If I may actually make a simple comment on what you have just said. Okay, and one of the countries, okay, that have been talking, okay, very vocally, you know, and loudly about something that we have lost faith in, which is called human rights. You know, it was the United States of America alongside another country called Israel. And I'm wondering myself, how dare you? How dare you talking about human rights? Okay, don't you see yourself and what you've been doing to those people, humble people in Gaza, not only Gaza. We've been seeing the situation in Lebanon as well. You know, that, okay, it's not, could you please, okay, it's a humble request on my actually side. Could you please stop talking about human rights? And this has to do with the new world order once again, and the multipolar system that we've been calling for. And if we don't actually see, you know, that system goes back once again, let me talk a little bit of history now. Okay, it goes back to the Second World War and the end of the Second World War, then the establishment of the New World Order and the Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, which we truly value and appreciate. But we want to see it in action. Stop talking about human rights as in just mere words. If we don't see it for real, how would you like us to believe in something that we don't see? And this is something that's very critical. The example that you gave is, to me, is not just a simple example. Maybe someone would say that, okay, what is it? Why are you making a big fuzz out of this? That some people wanting to watch a match, or you know, okay, if we like me to break it down a little bit to the example that you just gave, Israel, okay, has been like suspecting, you know, they have that kind of, you know, they're crazy about security. Maybe they would say, you know, that kind of gathering, you know, it's not secure enough. That's in their minds. What we have seen, okay, Gazans cheering actually our national team, you know, and I've seen, you know, the wreckage around them. You know, I think you have seen it.
Yeah,
you know,
we all have.
Okay, so that scene is incredible. You know,
it's mind-boggling. I mean, you kill people watching football in an area that you occupy, and you shouldn't be occupying. And there is a ceasefire deal, an international agreement signed here in Sharm el-Sheikh and brokered by U.S. President Donald Trump, but you still violate it. And you kill, you know, aid workers and those who organize, you know, gatherings to watch football matches, mostly watched by children. Again, Israel's contribution to the World Cup. Dr. Momtaz, so you saw in the Iran problem, countries like Pakistan taking a big lead in mediation, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, so, and others. So is the South here, or the developing world, having a bigger say now in global affairs? It was also the same when it came to the Gaza ceasefire deal, never respected, of course, by Israel. But anyway, mediation efforts, diplomatic efforts, and are we as developing nations getting a bigger share of, or bigger say in world affairs, or are we still way behind?
I want to be, you know, like, once again, I want to be actually
or diplomatic or frank?
No, I want to be optimistic about it, you know. Yeah, okay, I kind of agree, and I kind of disagree at the same time, because it's puzzling nowadays when you look at the international situation. I wouldn't actually disagree especially the example that you gave about, Pakistani, what they've been doing a great job, by the way, the mediation job. Qatar is the same way. Of course, huge credit goes to both of them, and of course, we truly value what they've been doing. On the other hand, okay, the term that you've been using since we started our today's talk, Global South, where are those countries? I'm talking about for real, practically speaking, once again. Okay, for example, the economic contribution of the Global South. Where is that? Where is that? Okay, for real, where is it? We've been actually paying the price of everything in the world, by the way. Whatever crisis, the latest one about what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, who is paying the max cap, the maximum price, the price tag, the max price tag of all of this? Global South, by the way. Yeah, we have seen the impact, huge impact, on a continent like Europe. And that's not surprising because they are not doing well the last couple of years, economically speaking, namely when it comes to Germany. However, when it comes to our countries, economically speaking, most of the burden, it's on our shoulders.
Although, by the way, Dr. Momtaz, the Global South now accounts for 80% of growth. I mean, and growth in the South is at much higher levels than growth in the developed world. So I mean, if we count China South.
Yeah. Okay, China
China plus India, of course, make the big difference.
Okay, China. Okay, I'm not talking about India for now because India is a different case. But China, okay, yeah, okay, theoretically speaking, it's part of the Global South. Practically speaking, you don't think China is Global South.
Yeah.
Practically speaking, but
it's not still developing, is it?
I think they are done, more or less. They are done with that phase. But if we like to be more, in actuality for real, so I talk about African countries. Most of our countries, I think 50 plus countries nowadays.
Yes.
Okay, and that what they've been doing, economically speaking. They've been suffering, and once again, I'd like to go back to history, to the 19th century, and even before 19th century, 18th century, and 19th centuries. Okay, why that? Colonialism, once again. Can we imagine we're still suffering from the complications of colonialism? Till today, 21st century, 2026, and we're still actually suffering from this. More or less, directly, indirectly, different levels depending on the country that we're talking about in Africa, but that continent, way or another, we've been suffering. And we're not only suffering economically speaking because of those back in the days of the colonial era, but, okay, as well, on top of all of this, the interference from Western countries. And, some Western countries don't get that fact that we are changing in Africa. Okay, one of those countries which I truly appreciate and value culturally speaking, but when it comes to colonialism, it's a different story, it's France. And we've been seeing the situation in some of the Western African countries, the Sahel countries. They've given up on this. We have had enough of that colonial mentality because you're talking to us in a different way. Why? Okay, because we are Africans? Because that's a different continent? Because we're not doing well economically speaking? It's mostly because of you, because of those days back to the colonial era, as I've said. So once again, back to your question about Global South and the contribution of Global South and growth, okay, of Global South. Once again, optimistically speaking, we are hoping that we'd have better future. Totally agree with this. The main question is how. The main question is who would be there in charge. Once again, is it us fully responsible for this? Are we in the driver's seat when it comes to development? Because we want everything to be in our hands. When it comes to development, it's us to decide which way to go. It's not about others dictating us, that we should go this way. No, it's not time to work on this. You have to direct all of your attention somewhere else. Totally disagree. So once again, that issue that you mentioned I think it's not only critical, it's about the future of the world once again. Let me actually be clear about this. You know, developed countries not wanting developing countries to join them, okay, in shaping the future of the world, I think that would be really, I think, you know, I don't want to use the harsh words, but that would be smart on their side. You know, we have to be there because they've been taking advantage of us and they don't want to admit it, and that's puzzling, you know. You don't admit that you've been taking advantage of our countries. You don't want to actually, you know, admit that you've been making use of our abilities in a continent like Africa. You know, who stole most, actually, I'm sorry, I used the wrong verb. Who plundered our, actually, riches in our continent? It's us.
Why is it a wrong verb? It's not a wrong verb.
Okay.
I mean, it's
yeah,
okay.
It's a robbery. It's a robbery, and it's clear, crystal clear. And they don't want to admit it. Okay, I think, you know, a couple of weeks ago, okay, I was actually, you know, listening to some, actually, you know, leaders at the United Nations, you know, wanting some Western countries to admit that, okay, the horrors of colonialism and the complications of, okay, colonialism. And, you know, Western countries, you know, they've never wanted to do this.
Speaking of the United Nations, very respectful organization. We all respect it. We all love it. Egypt always believes in the principles of international law and the United Nations Charter. Egypt has also called for the reform of the UN Security Council in specific, and international financial bodies as well. And that's very important. But the Iran problem, I'm not going to say war because we don't know where this will end. Is this a war? Is this, are we in a state of understanding or misunderstanding or whatever? But the Gaza, the Israeli genocide war on Gaza, and then the Iran war, and a lot of important global events are demonstrating, or actually are exposing, entre parenthèses, the weakness or the inability or whatever of the United Nations to act. So I'm raising really 2 points here. First of all, how much does the world today, we don't want to live in a jungle, so how much does the world need a strong United Nations? And is this possible now? And if we ever have a multipolar world again, will this become possible again as it used to be? Maybe now, because it's a unipolar world, the UN has been sidelined. Maybe if we go to multipolar, the UN will have its role back. That's the first point. And the second point is Egypt's call for the reform of the Security Council, in specific the veto power and so on, and also the international financial bodies that seem again to favor the rich or exploit the poorer in most cases.
That's a huge question, by the way. And okay, it's not only a huge question, it's a compulsory one, in other words. We have to answer this question. We shouldn't try to avoid answering this question, but we have to. And it's all of us who should try to answer that question. And the country that should try to get that question answered, I think in my mind, the global south. Because sometimes I feel like those developed countries, they don't care that much about answering that question. They want to actually, talk about the United Nations and how, actively involved they are, the United Nations in the different international issues. However, when it comes to us, whom that we should resort to? If we don't have the United Nations, we should go to who? I think that's the main purpose of establishing an international organization, or the international organization called the United Nations. Because if we go back to history once again, 20th century, first they came up with the idea of the League of Nations, 1918, 1919. And then, by the way, that was an American idea. Okay, President Woodrow Wilson. And then it failed. Why it failed? Okay, mainly because of the main powers not supporting the international organization, not the small countries. Okay, it wasn't our fault, by the way.
Yeah.
From 1919 to 1939, the start of the Second World War. It's not actually our fault. It's very much the opposite, by the way. You know, small countries, you know, back then, those 20 years, the interwar period, they had been wanting, you know, a strong international organization, a strong League of Nations. All failed 1939, the Second World War. Second World War ended 1945. Okay, countries were hoping that they would have another or a different, not another, a more active, a more functioning, okay, international organization. The United States of America was there once again behind the idea of the United Nations. Okay, why me talking about this? Because, you know, it was their idea, okay, and then countries like, okay, like us, like ours, like Egyptians, we've been wanting, you know, a fully active international organization. We don't want actually an international organization by name. I don't like this. I don't like this. When we keep talking about the United Nations as just in name-wise, you know, okay, when we get to a table, different countries, and we say that, okay, we have, you know, the United Nations. And when you ask people, you know, okay, what is the role of the United Nations? Okay, especially, you know, we've been talking about Iranian-American war. Where are the United Nations? Where is it? I'd like to... Exactly. It's absent, you know, because one of the main reasons of the absence of the United Nations, of that scene in the United States. They want to actually United Nations to be there. You know, when they waged that war against Iran, when Israel started the whole thing, by the way, you know, they didn't go to the United Nations. And by the way, let me remind everyone what happened in the first couple of weeks starting February 28th.
Yes.
Okay, I still recall this. You know, some European countries like Spain, they called on the United States of America that you should go to the United Nations. We're not joining you until you go to the United Nations. You go to the United Nations, okay, get the authorization by the United Nations, and then we would join you. Okay, he got mad. He was really mad. Okay, and I think it was yesterday, day before yesterday. Okay, he attacked Spain, you know, at the summit, the NATO summit, very heavily.
Mr. Trump attacks Spain every other day.
Yeah.
Because Spain is a supporter of just causes. Really, I mean, it's a beloved country, really. Anyway, I think this topic will have to be tackled time and again. I mean, this is not just a one-off. I mean, we will talk a lot about this, and also about how Egypt, by the way, is some sort of a bridge also between North and South. I mean, this beautiful country that has the balanced relationships with the entire world. So Dr. Momtaz, we'll just have to cut it short here because of the time that we have, and because we still have some 30 minutes or so and another economic segment here, because we'll be talking about the how the shift to South and how the transformation is happening economically as well in world trade, investment and innovation. And we will surely love to discuss with you, dear sir, that a topic, again, always a very interesting one, trying to look into the future and see how our world will be governed, and whether there is a shift indeed to a multipolar world, and whether the South will have a bigger say. But for now, we have to thank you, and on behalf of our viewers, Dr. Milad Momtaz, the Professor of International Relations, we thank you very much, and we hope to see you again soon and tackle that and other hot topics together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Momtaz. Now our reports about the transformation that is happening globally, also in the world of trade, investment and innovation, and the shift, again, the potential, the perceived shift that is happening towards the South and towards developing nations. When we come back, another distinguished guest will be with us here in the studio, and we'll be discussing the economic element of the shift to the South.